pickup in that whole group. So it's going to keep continuing to pick up each time these guys are on the racetrack, just because the track's going to continue to get better. So the crew chiefs are going to have to chase the balance, but it is going to keep getting quicker every lap that they put on this racetrack right now.
We see a lot of passing up off the corner and down the straightaway, passing to the inside. We've not seen much of the dive bomb into the corner passing that we'll expect in the heats.
Well, exactly. That's that's the aggression that we were talking about at the top of the show. You can't dive bomb. There's two different ways. We're talking about two different conversations when we're going around here. There's a way to make lap time, which is to go the fastest way around there, and then under racing conditions, you have to run a different line. You have to protect that dive bomb on the bottom like I was talking about. And when you do that, when you enter that corner low, you know where you're going to exit high.
Yeah, this isn't like a standard racetrack we go to. Because the corners are so tight, you have to sit there and pick your poison. You have to sit there and go, if I'm going to guard the entry and guard the inside and cheat the entry and start turning in earlier, you're making the second half of that corner a lot tighter on the exit. So it's robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak.
And that's where the gamesmanship comes from, short track racing. I mean, it's a classic short track. If that guy blocks you getting in, right at the last minute, you're going to dive out, get that arc in, and be able to turn underneath of him and do a crossover and beat him to the other side on the bottom and have the preferred line.
Blaney, Chastain, and McDowell are the three fastest here in Group 2, with 5 minutes to go in round 2 of 3 rounds of practice.
Auto line looking back in line by half.
I think what we see now is drivers all trying to make time trial laps here, all trying to find where the grip is and get that time to come down. They're pretty evenly spaced, not a lot of passing going on. Everybody just looking for their line.
I think this gives a really good illustration of this is it's laid out a lot like Martinsville. Has really long straightaways and really tight corners. It's just shrunk down to a quarter of a mile.
But it kind of looks, it's not like our short track of Martinsville, that paperclip. Those straightaways having a little bit of dog leg to them. It looks exactly like a football, I think, when you look at the overhead shots of this.
Well, NASCAR raced at Soldier Field in Chicago in the mid-50s. They raced at Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem up until the early 1970s. They raced on the 5th mile at Islip, Long Island. So a lot of short track history in NASCAR, just not recent history of tracks this small until NASCAR came to the Coliseum 1 year ago.
That's the great thing of what NASCAR has done now, is sitting there, remembering their roots and coming back to venues like this and realizing that they can take this car, like you mentioned, they can take this car anywhere, any surface. This car is a good all-around car, and it performs really well on this small of a racetrack.
Larry Mack, what you seeing?
Well, Mike, I have changed locations. I am up here with Coleman Presley, spotter for Joey Logano. Coleman, and last time you guys were here, you got to celebrate a victory, but how tough is it spotting at this quarter-mile track, which we're going to have about 26 other cars out there?
It's very tough. As you can see, it's a bull ring out there. It's what we grew up on, so the real estate's a lot tighter. The give and take's a lot tighter, but it's a lot of fun. It brings me back to what we grew up doing, and I got a really good driver in Joey that's not afraid to be aggressive.
So Mike, he's got so many radios, he's got to be like Boyer, a lot of voices in his head. But Mike, if you think there's a lot of steps to the Phoenix TV booth, you ought to make the trip I just made.
Larry, I see you at the top of the grandstand. Did you climb up those 75 rows to get there?
I did, and when I go back down, it's going to be a little easier. I think I'll count the steps.
I hope so. Joey spotted for Coleman Presley in the fall brawl at Hickory Motor Speedway. Coleman was the driver and won that race. So nice little bit of payback for his spotter there. A.J. Allmendinger pulls into the infield with 1:40 to go. He's done with this round.
Yeah, like Clint mentioned earlier, once you figure out what your balance is, you're just beating the car up or just running laps. So once you figure it out, come in, give these guys a chance to get the air pressure, let everything cool down a little bit, go up, make one more adjustment before they go into qualifying.
Blaney, Chastain, and Hamlin are the 3 fastest, and Corey LaJoie had a bit of contact a couple laps ago here.
I think that just stemmed from Cody Ware slipping up in the center of the corner, having to check up, and Corey LaJoie was there.
Yeah, Cody's car was really tight there. So when it's tight like that, you can't just get in the gas like everybody else is. You have to wait for the front tires to catch up before you can get on the throttle.
About 3 laps to go in this second round of practice.
1 minute remaining.
For Group 2.
Seconds by 7 to the 10.
Chase Briscoe, 3rd overall, fastest in this group now.
And I mean, changing gears and ringing that thing out every single lap. I think I actually heard it hit the chip just a little bit there. You heard him say in his interview that that rev limiter was a little bit different than it was last year. Maybe it got him off guard a little bit.
13:38 for Briscoe, who has run 72 laps in 2 rounds of practice. Group 3 coming out for their second Don. What's up?
That's right, and as a result, 21st on the board right now. He brought it back. He had a clutch issue, and I just talked to the team. They said they had a bleeder issue. It allowed the fluid to back up, so they were able to find the issue, seal it, and they believe they're good to go. No other issues on that 22, Mike.
Thank you. So this was earlier at the end of round 1. Logano exiting because of the hydraulic clutch issue.
Yeah, much like you bleed brakes. Get that air bled out of the line and it'll be just fine. Now there's some guys in this group that are really needing to get faster. That 45, look at that. Hold on to it, Tyler Reddick. Loose into the corner.
Clear behind him.
J.J. Yaley going past in the 15.
He's one of them, getting used to his new team, his new car. Noah Gragson and Brad Keselowski really slipping and sliding around the first couple of attempts. He's looking to make some big adjustments here, wholesale changes, I'm sure, in between these practice sessions.
So of this group, Ty Gibbs was fastest in round 1 and stands 6th overall. Ahead of Haley, Harvick, Bell, and Reddick.
Christopher's car really, he's able to really tug on the wheel right in the center of the corner. When he really wants to ask more of it for the front end to cut and turn, he's able to do that.
Absolutely, grip and rip, baby. He turned underneath Noah Gragson right there, and when he called on it, it answered.
Now, when we started practice, most of the track was in sunshine, but now just turn 2 and the back straightaway are in sun. The rest of the track is in shade. Does that make a big difference?
I think it does. I think last year when we were here, when we qualified, they practiced during the daytime in the sun, but qualified at night, and we saw guys struggle in qualifying to get heat in the tires and get the tires up to temp and up to speed.
Sit in front of you, nothing out back. 15 hung to the top, 2 in front, clear low.
You see Brad Keselowski just really struggling to get in the corner, holding these guys up. He was one of them I'm talking about. I saw some wheel lock up. He can get off the corner, but man, he really has to slow down getting in, and they've all but run over him.
Christopher Bell pulls to the side, I think just looking for clean racetrack, and yes, now comes back up to speed at the tail end of the group. There's Bell all by himself, just looking for clean racetrack so he can experiment.
You need everything. I'm going to say that's fine and dandy, but honestly, on a short track racing, hard-nosed racing like this, in this tight compounds, I don't want to always be in that traffic, but I need to be in that traffic so I know I can maneuver around and do the things it's going to take, and I know darn well I'm going to need in tomorrow's racing action.
You're going to spend over 95% of the time tomorrow in traffic. So
whether you're the leader or not.
Exactly. So even on a typical weekend where we're on 1.5-mile tracks and you need that clean air for the downforce, it's not near as critical on a quarter mile. That the speeds are way slower. It's just not as air dependent. So I think it's fine to be in that traffic, and the more you can get used to being behind a car and finding your braking points and your turn-in points, that's just going to make you better for race day.
See some more smoke in the front of that. I think you've got, I hate to say it, but I think some, some rubber on fire.
Yeah,
he's going to have to get out. That's a rocker box fire, just like we saw last year. You see it inside the car. That's exactly what it is.
And caution is out.
Dang it. Hurry up and get that thing put out. We need this car for tomorrow. Much like we saw in Kevin Harvick at Darlington.
A change that NASCAR has made this year for the Clash at the Coliseum is they have rerouted the exhaust system through the rocker panels below the doors and incorporated mufflers and resonators just to try to take the edge off the noise of these cars. It's still going to be loud. It's just not going to be quite as loud. They've opened up the bottom of the rocker boxes for cooling. And if rubber buildup or something has gotten in there, it can combust. And here we are, the AMR safety team is at work now trying to get that put out.
Yeah, a lot of things. You're right. The mufflers is definitely a big part of that change that we have for this event, but that's something that we saw last year as well. Something there's a lot of teams that are going to be looking at this car and maybe some adjustments or anything that they can do. But I will say one consistency, that was the only one that we've seen, and it was even showed up in the last practice.
Did that fire start to develop in the rockers or in the wheel opening?
Yeah, okay.
Or does it matter?
It's tire dust, and it's, wherever it collects and it's around that exhaust somewhere that has extreme temperature, that's when it'll ignite it.
Rookie Ty Gibbs with a rough introduction to the Cup Series here as his car goes up partially in flames.